Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm William.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything tabletop role-playing games.
And today we are talking about the Empire of Netheril.
1, 2, 3, 4. Shout out to
Welcome, adventurers, to the Dungeoncast.
Hey, Brian.
Hey Will.
How you doing today?
The patrons have voted, and for that I am thankful.
That they have.
We're on that creep. Thanksgiving it to them.
We're Thanksgiving it to you guys. Absolutely. So I hope you like Forgotten Realms, Brian.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Like we talk about, we don't like to use it for our games necessarily, but
No.
it's fun to learn about.
And there's lots to learn about
There's
it.
so much.
Because the patrons have voted in the most Forgotten Realms topic we've ever covered.
Yeah,
to
man.
date. Besides, like, maybe the Dritz episode or the Cringe Cinnabon. Those are also very Forgotten Realms.
Very Forgotten Realms. One of them is delicious.
I would argue, though, that this is even more Forgotten Realms-ish than those episodes.
Dang. What is a Netheril?
Well, not only is the Empire of Netheril a specifically Forgotten Realms concept, but it covers a huge amount of the Forgotten Realms historical timeline.
Okay.
It heavily includes gods and legendary devices and magic specific to the realms, and requires that I explain a multitude of realms-specific peoples, entities, creatures, and more. I hope you like history lessons as well, because that is essentially what this episode's about to be.
It's just Will's. We're just gonna hang out in Will's story corner the whole time.
So welcome, everybody, to the history of Netheril.
Nice.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So Netheril, also known as the Empire of Magic, was an ancient magocratic human empire of Phaerimm over 5,000 years before the current date. I think it is pretty widely regarded as the height of human civilization in the Forgotten Realms, and some would say simply the height of all civilization. Its name is known by pretty much everyone on the continent, and its influence is impossible to parse from the current civilizations across the continent. It reigned for 3,000 years. It stretched across the land and sky and under the sea. It reached heights of magical power only dreamed of since, and its power was such that even a single city-state that survived its fall was able to reestablish imperial rule over a vast region for another century, over 1,400 years after the original empire fell.
That's a pretty long time
Yeah.
for empires and stuff to be kind of moving around that capacity.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, and it all came crashing down due to the act of one man, an archmage by the name of Karsus, one of the absolutely most powerful wizards to walk Phaerimm, and who, in attempting to become a god, instead fathered the single most infamous historical event in Phaeronian history, the folly of Karsus. Now, only artifacts and ruins from this ancient empire remain. New ones are still discovered to this day and are often coveted by those interested in Netheril's legacy, secrets, and power.
I actually know all about this already.
Do you? How? Why?
I run FBATs in the Forgotten Realms very loosely.
Very, yeah.
But this is the thing I had to study the most for an episode that we did out, out in the desert where...
Oh, you went out to the desert.
Yeah,
oh, my goodness. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, it was...
Okay.
It was the episode. It's in season 2 of FBATs, which hasn't aired yet. But we did the the Ra's al Ghul, like he's
League
trying
of Shadow
to
stuff.
League of Shadows. He's trying to blow up the world, and he's got bases like all over the world. So I was like, oh, Ra's al Ghul's gonna make me go out into the Forgotten Realms, and one of his bases, I was like, oh, that'd be cool. This is like. I'm not going to spoil it because I know what happens. Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
So before we get into the age-by-age history of the Empire, of which there are essentially 9 ages, let's talk a bit about the understood culture and society of Netheril, though this will be a generalized synopsis. Much like real-life ancient Rome, what Netherese were like, how they went about their lives, where they lived, and what not really depends on exactly when and where they lived. The ancient Romans of the Republic and the ancient Romans of the late Western Empire of Rome would likely not have very similar life views, religion, or anything else in common for that matter, nor would the ancient village peoples who called Nether the Elder their leader and the power-mad Arcanists of floating enclaves during the Shadowed Age have many things in common.
Okay.
So during most of the Empire's reign, the Netherese people lived in a strict hierarchy, split into the nobles of High Netheril, living in flying enclaves miles above Toril, and the commoners of Low Netheril, settled in domains on the coast of the Narrow Sea. As an aside, the Narrow Sea doesn't exist anymore and hasn't for at least 1,800 years.
Okay.
That's how ancient the Netheril Empire is.
And you're saying when you reference in that way, it's like to whatever current time the Forgotten Realms is running
right
in?
now, yeah.
Okay.
Which right now I think is like 1492 DR.
Okay. Is it creeping upward or downward in number?
Upward now.
Oh, okay.
So I think I do get into dates as we keep going down.
Gotcha.
And I had to translate these dates over from. So the major source that I got this information from was from a book. I think it was just called Netheril Empire of Magic. And it's from 2nd edition.
Okay.
And it talks about all this stuff in great detail, and it's great. But all the dates are in the calendar dates that they used in the Empire. So completely different dates from what's used everywhere else in the realms.
I see.
And so I had to convert it over, and I kept having to cross-reference wikis and go back to this. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, there was no Instagram or TikTok to
patrons.
scroll. They were just writing fucking history.
Yeah. So but right now I believe it's year 1492 or 93 DR in like the quote unquote current date.
Okay.
Give or take 10 years.
Interesting. All right.
So yeah. The Narrow Sea doesn't exist anymore. Seas have come and gone since the inception of the Empire. During its glory years, the Empire of Magic, both High and Low Netheril, would spread across a great stretch of phaerimm. The segregation Netheril divided the empire into both geographic and cultural terms, into the haves of High Netheril and the have-nots of Low Netheril. The root of the segregation was tied to the discovery and development of mythallars by Netherese arcanists.
Okay.
A mythallar is a Netherese device that allows access to vast amounts of raw magic. They look very much like crystal balls, but are about 150 feet in diameter, so they're huge. These globes shed a very bright light, similar to the sun, with dimmer shapes and shadows moving across its surface. These magical devices are powered by the weave itself, or I should say were, because they don't exist anymore, and gave the wizards of Netheril tremendous powers. It allowed for them to develop the spells necessary to create their floating enclaves and craft quasi-magical items that were powered by the mythallars themselves rather than directly with the weave.
So these powerful wizards would wield these raw magic balls. Nice.
Yep. The ancient empire of Netheril was governed by the Magocratic Council, the High Mages of Netheril, which consisted of the leading wizards of High and Low Netheril. That makes it sound organized. It really wasn't organized. Basically, the way it actually worked was if you were a wizard that was powerful enough to make a mythallar and then use that mythallar to get your city into the sky, hey, welcome to the High Mages of Netheril. You did it.
See, this is I use like arcane spheres or whatever, like raw magic balls. Mine aren't raw. I put condoms on mine. I mean,
whoa,
metal. I put them in like metal balls or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like cages. Like they're too powerful to not be in some sort of apparatus.
You got to cage your balls.
You cage these balls.
The enclaves of High Netheril were home to the realm's nobility, and they shared the language of Loros, which was written in the same script as Draconic. The domains and outlying colonies of Low Netheril were home to Netheril's middle and commoner classes, and were greatly influenced by the clerics of the Netherese pantheon. They spoke Netherese in the cities of Low Netheril. So, trying to think of if there's like a Roman Empire analog. I'm sure there is. I guess no, that wouldn't work either, because I'm pretty sure they still all spoke Latin in Rome. It wasn't like a division of language between the nobility and the. But anyways, during the height of the Netheril Empire, 54 floating cities soared over the skies of phaerimm. They were by and large considered bastions of enlightenment, peace, and ingenuity, giving the mages of Netheril sanctuaries from which they could continue their arcane research, safe from the distractions and dangers of the surface world. Though this isn't an entirely false statement, the ruling class of Netheril were far from benevolent.
Okay, so cities are flying.
Cities are flying. And the mages are like, we're doing this because it's created a safe bastion for us to continue our research, away from distraction. And we are bastions of enlightenment and peace. But really, they're just power-hungry pieces of shit.
Yeah, they left all the sexy people down on the earth, or on Phaerun and Toril, and they were like, no sexy people allowed up here. We are reading.
We are reading. Thank you very much. Each enclave was raised and often ruled by one of the Empire's powerful arcanists. Many of the floating enclaves of Netheril were carved right out of the natural world, while others were existing cities that were elevated and taken over by the Empire's mighty arcanists. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to talk about Nikola Tesla. Like, he could have just made a floating city instead of like
I guess.
You know,
Sure.
crushing his nuts or whatever he did.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, there's like rumors that he castrated himself so that he could like not be tempted by the urges, so that he could study harder.
Not the urges.
Not those. We're good up here. We have our raw magic balls.
We got our mythallars.
You guys can't watch. Stay down there.
The lands of Low Netheril consisted of scattered towns, land-bound enclaves known as domains, and roaming barbarian tribes. The domains were ruled by the lesser arcanists of the Empire, who had yet to master the creation of the mythallars that enabled the ancient wizards to lift their cities from the face of Teril. Each domain exhibited specific terrain, weather, and characteristics that were alterable depending on the whim of the ruling arcanist.
Okay.
Unlike the nobility of the flying enclaves, the commoners of Low Netheril, also known as the free folk, were seen as chattel by their societal superiors. Big surprise. The arcanists of the Empire used them for labor or subjects for magical experimentation. Heavily influenced by the priests of their varying religions, the serfs of Low Netheril looked to their gods for a better life, free from the subjugation of the Empire's majocratic rulers.
Is chattel cattle that can talk? Chatty cattle?
Absolutely.
I'm getting the context here, but like it's pretty much it, right? You know,
it's not
servants.
cattle that can talk, but chattel is, I believe, cattle. It's like livestock, right? Isn't that what chattel is? It's like beasts of burden.
I don't know this word.
Yeah, hold on.
Every once in a while, there's a word in here I don't know.
Chattel. We had a whole conversation about chattel back in one of the Demon Lords episodes.
Oh, it did not stick.
Yeah,
clearly.
well, I think it was the Orcus episode where he saw the gods as chattel.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then we made a lot of jokes about Orcus being a loser that no one liked.
Orcus is a loser that a lot of people like, but
Man, that was like 6 years ago, bro.
it sure was.
Chattel, a personal possession. So we're both wrong.
I like chatty cattle better.
Chatty cattle. Okay, so now that you have a basic idea of what Netheril was,
and
let's
what
go.
chattel is.
And what chattel is, let's go into its beginning and make our way through all 9 various eras or ages of the Empire in chronological order.
The first age.
Starting with the first age. So the first age. Netheril's history began over 5,000 years ago at a site of 7 fishing villages in northern phaerimm. Fenwick, Gurs, Gillen, Gustaf, Morin, Nassif, and Janik.
Okay.
The villages made the decision to band together for mutual protection against marauding orc bands. I don't know why I thought you were about to have a joke about orcs in a band, but anyways. The shaman king of Gurs, called Nether the Elder, created a calendar to celebrate the union. The coalition of villages was named Seventon, since the marriage of 7 villages created the newfound nation. Great joy reigned through Seventon, the people celebrating both their first steps towards civilization and the wisdom of their leaders.
We could do like an orc band, like doing songs called like 710 and like the seven fish or whatever the fuck.
Oh yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
you know, that'd be rad.
That'd be pretty cool. This was not to last long, though. A few years later, King Nether renamed the King Netheril, which meant Nether's land. He demanded more and more tribute from the United Villages, and many feared that Seventon would collapse. The citizens from the United Villages cried out in protest, and the future for the kingdom began to look very dim.
God damn fascists.
I know, so quick. That
Yeah,
happened.
every time, as soon
Every
as one
single-
creeps in there, it just fucking goes to hell.
One poisoned dirk, which is just a knife. I don't know if you know what a dirk is.
Okay.
One poisoned dirk signaled the end of Nether the Elder's reign, and a strong and just successor, Nether the Younger, stepped in to take control.
Always.
No one ever learned who held the lethal blade, and frankly, no one cared. They were just glad to be rid of the last guy. The stress of living under a tyrannical, egotistical leader fell away, and the people lived in peace once again, free to concentrate on trade. The nation's name, however, stood the test of time.
Yeah, it's okay. His kid will be better, right?
Right. 14 years after the formation of Netheril, the Erlani elves approached the loosely tied villages. Until this time, elves were a mere myth, imaginary creatures sent by the gods to lend a hand and redirect erred humans to the correct path. Let's stop here for a second. Netheril was so long ago, people didn't know elves were real.
Okay. Elves were aliens. Aliens showed up and were like, you're going to destroy the fucking planet.
No, elves had been there for a very, very long time. They actually have had empires.
No, yeah, they were
before
they were
this.
just hiding or whatever.
Yeah, they were just hiding.
In the Fae.
Yeah. Oh, not really in the Fae, because the whole elves and Fae being like a thing tied together was like way later down the road in D&D.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, you gotta. Okay.
I thought that was like
We're having
did
this
they
conversation.
retcon the inception of elves in the Fae,
So,
or-
what I said isn't exactly true. The thing is, in D&D, especially when you go way back to the beginning of D&D, the idea of elves was taken directly from Lord of the Rings. But Lord of the Rings elves are based heavily on Norse mythology, which has nothing to do with anything Fae. That's all Celtic stuff. So the thing is, Celtic mythology, I don't know if it has elves like per se elves, but it has a lot of like elf-like beings and a lot of like Fae spirits and stuff.
Okay.
There's a lot of similarities. So later on, as D&D keeps developing and starting to distance itself away from Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and like the Norse version of things, it kind of just starts blending everything together.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So the thing is, all this would have existed in like early second edition. So I don't know if Fae was a thing then and if it was tied to elves then.
Gotcha.
Okay. Where was I? So the Alani elves approach the loosely tied villages. And until this time, elves were a mere myth, imaginary creatures sent by the gods to lend a hand and redirect erred humans to the correct path. Netheril bowed its head in awe of these messengers of the earth spirits and venerated them. It took several years for the elves to convince these scarcely civilized humans that they were mortals. With this accomplished, the elves established trade with Netheril, beginning a friendship that lasted for centuries. So one of the many things the elves traded was magic. For the next century, trade continued with the elves, and magic use in this small nation grew in leaps and bounds. Unlike many other cultures, magic use was considered essential, and everyone who turned the age of 13 was taught the ways of magic. Those who truly excelled at the arts of magic became known as arcanists, a rapidly rising political faction that was second only to the nobility of the nation. The importance placed on magic helped bring Netheril to the top of Toril's magical nations. So, it's a new young nation, the elves become friends with them, start teaching them magic, and they just take off with it. Like, these people super get into magic.
Okay, nice.
And now we're entering
The Nether Age.
the Nether Age. So in year negative 3,533 DR marks one of the most important dates in Netheril's history. After 300 years of studying magic under the Irlani, the Nether Scrolls were discovered. This set of 100 scrolls provided the Netherese with an incredible jump in spellcraft unseen in the history of Toril. This was an age of tremendous learning in Netheril that lasted until the birth of its greatest archwizards. So real quick, Nether Scrolls.
Yeah, can we?
Yeah. The Nether Scrolls are a set of small scrolls that describe fundamental magical theory. Each scroll is made of precious metal, namely gold or platinum, and made flexible like paper, with silvery letters floating upon the surface. While the Nether Scrolls have no direct magical powers, they provide a vast body of supply of arcane knowledge. It takes 8 hours of study a day for 30 days in order to even begin to comprehend the contents of a single scroll. When a reader gains sufficient understanding, rereading the scrolls provides additional knowledge and information. There is no limit to the amount of information one scroll can contain.
Okay.
The Nether Scrolls were created 30,000 years ago by the Saruk, a Saurian race considered to be the progenitor race of phaerimm. We've talked about the Saruk one time on the show. It was during the Naga episode.
They're dinosaurs?
They are dinosaur people.
That's fucking wild.
They are the original people of phaerimm. They are
Okay.
long extinct.
Right.
Was it a meteor? I don't know.
They just find like some of their bones every once in a while.
Yes.
Okay.
They are responsible for a lot of like in Forgotten Realms lore, the Saruk are responsible for like the creation of humans and elves and stuff. They're the progenitor race, and they had an empire so long ago no one even remembers it exists.
So they did like what, some fucking wonk science on themselves and like,
Probably on like the various apes of the land and stuff.
oh, weird. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know the details of the Saruk. This
I don't-
isn't
yeah.
the Saruk episode.
I don't want to step on a landmine here. Let's move on.
The scrolls provided a huge leap forward in Netherese spellcraft, which they favored. You see what I mean by this is the most favorite Forgotten Realms episode ever? It's
Yeah, we gotta go
We
all-
gotta keep stopping. I gotta go back 30,000 years to tell you there was dinosaur people that created elves.
And wrote and made a tablet full of infinite knowledge.
Exactly.
Several of them.
Hundreds of them. The scrolls provided a huge leap forward in Netherese spellcraft, which they favored over the magic that they learned from the elves. The next 200 years saw the power of the Netherese arcanists increase by leaps and bounds. A century or so later, the Netherese finally discovered a realm of the stout, short humanoid creatures who dwelled within the hills and mountains. The creatures came to be known as the Dwarves of Delzoun.
Okay.
Again, they didn't know dwarves existed.
Yeah, because dwarves are just digging. All these mountains are brand new.
Exactly.
We got a lot of work to do.
We got a lot of work to do. It took a few years to discover what each culture wanted from the other. The Netherese found it nearly impossible to sell their new magical items and spell research techniques to the dwarves, but the dwarves found a steady purchaser of finely crafted metal weapons in the Netherese, and that single commodity consumed most of the trading between Delzoun and Netheril.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So now
The mythallar era.
we are entering the mythallar era.
I said it right.
You
Cool.
did, yeah. Or, I mean, as far as I fucking know, you
Right.
did.
mythallar.
mythallar. With the discovery of the Nether Scrolls behind them, the Netherese now concentrated spellcraft and the arcane arts with hitherto unprecedented zeal. The mythallar era provided the one invention that would shape Netheril's future in ways no one could possibly foresee. It took its creators to amazing heights of power, and its beginning is marked by the birth of the wizard who would craft this invention. His name was Iolam. I'm going with Iolam.
Ayaolam.
Iolam.
Ayaolam.
Iolam.
Maybe it's just ulam. You know, like the eyes. sound.
Ulam. I like that. I'm going with Iolam.
Okay.
Okay. One of the mightiest human archwizards to ever walk the lands of Teril, Iolam was a major catalyst for Netherese spellcraft, training over 3,000 arcanists. Without his imposing presence, the magical mythallar that allowed Netheril cities to float in the air might never have been created. In negative 2,900-ish DR, Iolam created the mythallar. This magical device dug deep into the weave of magic and gave access to raw, unfiltered magic. It allowed Netherese arcanists to create magical items without the need of a permanency spell, and provided the constant magical force that allowed entire mountains to hover in the air.
Ayaolam is the Walter White of the Forgotten Realms.
I guess so.
He's making the most pure shit.
Yep. With the advent of the mythallar, arcanists were able to create magical items that would, in effect, be permanent incantations as long as they stayed within the 1 mile radius effect of the mythallar. The first of these quasi-magical items was created by Iolam himself. He created an elaborate mantle that allowed the wearer to see in the dark and hear the thoughts of all those within 20 feet.
Weird. That's
Yep,
creepy.
That's a
Okay.
weird first thing to make, bro.
Yeah. Some paranoia just already in there.
Once this magical item was created, the floodgates were opened, and the nation of Netheril was suddenly faced with a glut of magical items. The prices of such quasi-magical items dropped to 1/10 the going rate for real magical items. The cost of traditional magical creations, those that required a permanency spell, rose to 3 times the going rate, since only those who left the range of the mythallar required such items.
Ever wonder what your friends are thinking when you're out and about? Mine Crown. Buy it today. 8 times the price of normal magic, but I guarantee it's worth it.
There you go.
All
Love
right.
it. Iolam not only invented the mythallar, but was also the first person to utilize them in the creating of floating enclaves.
Nice.
Using a form of Etern's levitation and Chronomancer's gravity reversal,
Oh, shit.
he placed the mythallar in the center of a mountain base, rotated the mountain point down, giving him a large circular flat surface upon which to build a city.
Yep.
He called the new structure Iolam's Enclave because he's so creative.
Uh-huh.
And it soon became a flying city as people from all across Netheril flocked to him, wanting to live in the clouds high above the threat of those who fear and don't understand magic.
It was bullshit getting up there for like the first few times, though.
I bet. Dude, can you imagine like all the poor animals on that mountain?
He flips it over and
He
like
just fucking flips it over.
hundreds of goats just falling to their doom.
Exactly.
Oh,
All the goats and deer and rabbit, they're just fucking falling from the sky, bro.
damn. Can you imagine getting stuck? Like you're in your rabbit hole and then you're on the ceiling and then you try to leave and you can't.
I bet the birds were okay with it though.
I bet the birds were fine.
Yeah, they were pretty. They were
They were
good.
like, oh shit. Flap, flap, flap.
Exactly. And then once it's there, they could go up there and they can like use all those dangling
Little
trees
nooks
and
and
stuff.
crannies,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like bird paradise.
Yeah, except for like the, anybody that had eggs. You know,
Oh yeah, no, yeah, that was
my nest, oh, my babies.
Lots of splattered eggs. Yeah.
Dang.
So as the leader and creator of Iolam's Enclave, the Archwizard was in absolute control. He allowed the people to have a say, and he sometimes took their advice and wishes to heart. But when it came right down to hard decisions, Iolam made them all. It was his domain. That is going to spell the rest of this nation's history, because that's what all the other wizards are going to start doing.
Oh, they make their own magic city and like this is my
do
house.
what they want. Yes, exactly. Yeah. While Netheril was concentrating its efforts to increase the number of floating cities, which by that's an empire date. So I don't even know what that would translate to, like negative 2,600 DR, had risen to 13 cities.
Okay.
Man, why did I leave a fucking empire date in there? The orcs were feeling the pressure of extinction at this point.
Oh, they had no one to pillage because they're all in upside down mountain houses.
Going into the sky. What do we do?
I can't steal all their stuff up there. I'm out of bird eggs. I caught as many as I could.
There's no more goats.
All the goats have rotted. I have so much goat skin, but I can't eat the goat skin.
They felt the only way to continue as a species was to rid the lands of the Netherese, and so a major offensive was set against the cities of Zenith and Conch, which I'm imagining are both land-bound cities.
Uh-huh.
More than a wizard, teacher, and inventor, Iolam was also a warlord, Joy. He led a major battle, bringing thousands of Netherese spellcasters and warriors to mount an attack against the largest concentration of orcs in Netheril's land at the time. 14 days later, the orcs retreated, but not before 18,000 bodies lay rotting on the slopes and valleys of the rampant peaks, 10,000 of whom were orc corpses.
Dang.
It's going to get worse. Iolam, however, was not finished. He wanted to find out where the orcs were stationed, and he wanted to remove the threat forever. He tired of the loss of people, food, and caravan cargo to the looting beasts. These are his words, not mine. And nothing was going to stop this conflict until every orc was exterminated. After years of scouting, tracking, and scrying, Iolam's outriders and seers found the major habitats with more than 50,000 troops. Iolam began his largest campaign, a war that lasted 16 months.
So some genocide? That's great. Everybody loves genocide.
Lots of genocide, yep. Called the Excursion into Extinction. Iolam led 32,000 troops to their death, but he succeeded. No orc was able to escape Iolam's gauntlet, since the whole area was surrounded and magical gates set up throughout the hills allowed the instantaneous transport of troops from one location to another in order to block all points of desertion. Over 140,000 orcs were slaughtered. Their bodies reddened the snows of two mountains that became known as Bone Hill and Thunder Peak.
Okay.
Yep.
Good job, Iolam, you fucking fascist. I hate this dude.
Oh yeah, dude. He's not even the worst guy. There's gonna be worse guys.
Yeah, we're gonna get to Karsus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's pretty bad.
He's bad. He's an idiot. But anyways, the mythallar age is capstoned by one last major event. This one, a tragic blow to the might of the Netherese. Half of the Nether Scrolls, one complete set, were stolen. The two copies, luckily, were separated in order to assure that one copy would remain in case of fire or other loss. The newer-looking set was stolen and never found. The storage vaults used to contain the scrolls were sealed, alarmed, and trapped to the best of Netheril's magical ability. But the scrolls were nonetheless removed without setting off the alarms, unsealing the vault, or activating the traps.
Okay.
They're just gone.
So they just hid that? What'd they do?
I don't know what happened to them.
Okay.
I didn't go sleuthing after them. I was I got more Netheril.
Right. Like they vanished from Netheril and now they're out of the episode.
Exactly.
So you can go figure out what's going on with those
there's
later.
one set left. It will also disappear later.
The Silver Age.
It's the Silver Age, guys. The next 300-year age of Netheril began with the founding of the Empire's new ruling council, the High Mages of Netheril, in negative 2758 DR. During this era, the Netherese discovered the deposits of valuable ore in passageways beneath the Grey Peak Mountains, established the mines of Decanter, and founded small colonies and outposts in the north. During Netheril's territorial expansion, Netherese at home were in tune to another expansion of their own. The constantly available magic from mythallars allowed relatively low-level arcanists to create quasi-magical items for themselves, and these arcanists were all looking for the magical invention that would allow them to retire.
Yep, just like me.
Most of these new magical items were designed with the common person, quote-unquote, the middle class, in mind. This group of people were the ones in greatest numbers and carried with it the greatest promise for get-rich-quick schemes.
Okay.
These small-time arcanists had the mentality, make an item cheap, simple to use, and make it appear to be invaluable. Basically turn a nicety into a necessity.
Like a ring of cold, like change your drinks from room temp to icy.
Exactly.
Okay.
This led to an equivalent of running water and electricity in every room, in every home throughout the Empire, amongst other modern marvels of magic, all powered by the mythallars found in every city. In time, the Netherese archwizards began to feel cramped in their floating cities. As more and more cities rose into the air, they feared their numbers would grow until their presence blotted out the sun. They felt expansion was in order. They expanded their sphere of divination to the east and to the west, but found the land to the west more to their liking.
If everybody has a sky city, then it's just going to be like the land up here,
Exactly.
It's
Right.
not cool.
Exactly.
It's not cool now that everyone's doing it.
And thus the nation of Netheril truly became an empire bent on conquering its neighbors.
Which leads us to the Golden Age.
Golden
Age.
Golden Age. The next millennium was a period of great advancements in magical understanding, prodigious expansion, and vast change for the Empire of Netheril, the beginning of which was marked by the birth of Jariah Kronos, the founder of the Chronomancy School of Magic, that they don't teach you in your player's handbook. In negative 2207 DR, it was also marked by some extremely tragic events and blows to the Empire. Real quick, I also want to... So we mentioned like Ialam, right? And now we're mentioning the Chronomancer. I've also mentioned that, thousands of years here, centuries there, none of these motherfuckers ever die because they're archwizards.
What?
So
they're just still
they're
here?
all going to be around when we're at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
Ialam's still very much alive. He's still doing his dumb shit in his dumb city.
So
And now we got a new guy named Chronomancer.
We're in the Old Testament of the Forgotten Realms where people just live for
Exactly.
forever.
Right.
Okay.
And this is through magic that they're doing this. But
All
yeah.
right. Yeah. Through magic, all things are possible.
Exactly. So it was also marked by some extremely tragic events and blows to the Empire. Netheril began lifting one enclave into the sky per year. Soon dozens of these magnificent monoliths of magic rode the air currents or moved in orbital patterns around the loosely defined borders of the Netheril Empire. And that's gotta be crazy. Like, you live on the mountain next to Netheril. You're not in their borders, and you just see floating cities like just orbit by, and you know what time of year it is because there goes Ialam's enclave. Must be winter.
Yeah, it's probably an event. Like you go up, you get to the top of your mountain to watch the neighboring mountain like rise up into the air and then rotate 180 degrees.
Oh God, yeah.
It's like, there go the goats.
There go the goats.
Damn it. All those goats. You guys want
to get the wheelbarrows?
Yeah. Get your big wagon, Jeff. We're gonna go get some goat skin.
They're flipping another mountain. Man, but crazy times in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, it's like when SpaceX launches a rocket, except you get like free meat.
Lots of free meat. Oh God. Each archwizard who created their enclave heeded Ialam's example, setting up their own laws and guidelines that the enclave's residents had to follow. As time went on, the people had less and less say, and their voices regarding changes in government tax rates and the such were drowned out by the archwizards' lust for more power. The enclave soon became a vehicle to provide funding for the archwizards' spell research, staging areas for campaigns against their other archwizards, and excursions into the quasi and para-elemental planes. They also explored the depths of the Sea of Fallen Stars and established 3 undersea crystal dome colonies that came to be known as Deep Netheril. In the following century, the subaqueous Netherese enslaved the Cerosian aquatic elves because, of course, they fucking did.
Of course they did.
The colonies were destroyed by the high mages of, that's a word, Aracelamallar.
Yeah.
Cool. In a catastrophic undersea explosion so large, it created the Saerloon and Selgaunt bays. So they created new bays in the sea.
Man. Okay. Well, I don't like the Netherese. They're assholes.
Oh, it's an empire. That's that's the name of empire, right?
Social commentary going on here right now.
Netheril's success had led to an uncounted number of enemies, and there was never a time without some rising menace during the Golden Age. The archwizards had to spend a lot of time dealing with enemies from both the surface world and from within their own ranks. This included destructive acts by Netherese citizens rebelling against the magical aristocracy, as well as the non-humans that swarmed around and within Netheril's borders.
What is so golden about all this shit? Just that they were doing a lot of stuff.
The golden part is that, like, this era, you got to remember, like, the people who name the eras are way after. They weren't calling this the golden era during, although they might have been.
Sure.
But this is like a reflective. It's like when we look back at an old thing, we could say the golden era was here because, like, this is when this civilization reached the height of its power.
Yeah, is that what's going? That's
Yeah,
my
it's the height of
core
its power.
question.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
because they're making they got a Sky Castle per year. And
they got just all the sky castles, and they got
Bubble
undersea
cities.
castles.
We
Yeah,
have
they got
Gungans
bubble
now.
cities. Yeah, they killed all the orcs. Like,
all the orcs are dead.
Yeah, exactly. So, yay.
Okay, we got it. We got it.
In 1896 DR, 9 men broke into the most holy and magical chamber of Ialam, the demi-divine. That's in quotations. Okay. Killing 9 guards in the process and losing 7 of their number to steal 24 parts of the remaining nether scrolls. When the thieves escaped to the surface world, a manhunt began. The thieves, fearful of the Archwizard's retribution, pounded the priceless golden scrolls into indiscernible baubles, then sold them. These gold nuggets received about 260 gold pieces in coins.
Fuck, it's better than nothing if that's what you're gonna do.
Nothing. Yeah, so 24 of the 50. So there's at this point 26 pieces of the Nether Scroll left out of the original 100.
Okay.
The first enclave, so floating city, fell in negative 1657 DR when the floating city of Sunrest yielded to the effects of an ill-planned spell research.
Okay.
The city hailed the impending creation of a spell called Sunrest Sunshock, which was an early attempt at an ultra-powerful meteor swarm spell.
Oh, wow.
But an accident occurred. The spell probably worked correctly, especially when eyewitness accounts from the city of Remembrance reported a blinding flash of light from the west, with a deafening roar that followed a few minutes later. Those who watched were horrified to see the whole enclave fall to the ground into a heap of rubble and stone. No one survived the accident.
Is this why they're called the City of Remember? Like, Pepperidge Farm remembers when the Sky City fell and killed all those fools.
You know, I didn't catch that, but I don't think I think that was just the name of the city.
They've been remembering. They've been seeing all kinds of shit.
All right, let's take a short rest.
All right.
It's the grand adventures of Ilian and Bjorn.
And that, Bjorn, is the story of the Empire of Netheril.
Yeah, it's a lot. That was a lot.
Yes, it's quite the extensive empire they have.
Yeah. I don't know how much of that I retained, but I'm gonna try to remember that. I don't know. Why did you tell me all that?
Well, I figured we were on this hike and we needed to kill some time, and it happened to be on my mind.
It's true. It was an interesting story. Hey, listen. I'm looking ahead. I'm seeing a cave, and I want to go inside of it. What do you think? You want to check it out?
Baron, we don't have time to go inside caves. We're trying to get to the top of this mountain.
Maybe it's a shortcut.
Maybe.
There's a lot of footprints going towards the cave. I just,
Fine. Okay, fine. We can take a short sabbatical into the cave.
Okay.
Take a break. And
That'd be
then
nice.
we got to get back to hiking, for Creator's Crater is at the top of this mountain.
That's right. And the shard of, what was it again?
The shard of substantial supporters awaits us.
Ever since we changed the name, I just cannot keep on track with it.
The important thing is that it is a piece of the pendant of Plenty's patrons.
Yes, it will,
Right now we only have one, but we need as many as we can gather.
it filled up my paints, and I'm very excited about it.
Yes.
About our
So,
adventure.
Let's just
But
go
look,
into your cave.
There's a lot of switchbacks, and I would really think we need
make
a
you happy.
change of scene.
It's fine.
All right.
Let's go. Lead the way.
It's dank in here.
It's a cave.
Yeah, it is. Dank caves. We're back to it. Never makes me feel more like a dungeon delver than going to a nice cave.
That's true. You're not wrong there.
There's so many stalagmites. I know that the M means they're coming out of the ground. The M for mud, right? It's C for ceiling. Stalactite. They hang tight to the ceiling. That's how I remember it.
I'm gonna go with what you just said.
Oh fuck! What's going on?
Whoa! An earthquake!
Ah!
Whoa! Oh my God! We're turning upside down!
What's happening? Alien, what's happening?
This can't be a coincidence. I mentioned the Empire of Netheril's floating cities. Could this really be happening? Stop yelling for a minute. I have to listen. Yes, there it is. Bien, do you hear them? The bleating of 1,000 dying goats falling to the face of the earth.
They know they're doomed. Oh, it's coincidence. Is it coincidence that we went into the cave? It's very fortunate that we're... Oh my God, there's just so many goats dying. They're falling to their death, Celia.
Yes.
There's nothing we can do.
No, the goats are long.
How did this happen?
It must be someone wielding the shard of substantial supporters.
Can we use ours to flip this thing back upside down? I'm scared.
We've used too much of it to renew your paints.
That's not my fault. It just did it by itself.
It is directly your fault for you. You're the one doing all the painting.
That's true. I didn't know it was. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry, Ghost.
We have to find our way through this cave system to the
killed them.
bottom of this mountain.
I killed all the goats.
Yes. All their lives are on your hands.
Oh, God. Oh, should we go into the cave?
We're already in the cave.
Well, like deeper in the, you know.
Yes, I don't see another possibility. We have to find our way to the base of this mountain now and find whoever has the shard.
The cave was going down. Now it's going up. So
I guess it's
makes
still really the
sense.
top.
Yeah. Are we looking for the top, like the new top, or are we looking for the bottom top?
We're looking for the new top.
The new top. Okay, let's do that.
Let's go.
We've returned.
Indeed we have.
We are fucking back.
Indeed we are.
Yeah. Hey, this is a Patreon voted episode.
That I apologize that I'm sick for, guys.
Yeah, we're it's a heavy edit, so hopefully you don't hear too much of it. Oh, there it goes. If you want to support Ilian and Bjorn on their quest for the shard of plenteous patrons and
A shard of substantial supporters.
shard of substantial supporters and subsequent shards, which they will go to retrieve until we get an advertiser. They can go on a side quest. You can do so on patreon.com/Dungeoncast. Right now, they're just advertising our Patreon.
Yeah, let's get to it.
The Age of Discovery.
It's the Age of Discovery.
Oh.
A number of profound arcane advancements were made during the 500 years following the Golden Age. In negative 1205 DR, miners found something that would change their lives forever, the gems known as shardolins.
Ooh.
An arcanist known as Alorian examined the gems as the miners brought up the quote-unquote useless rocks to her. She was amazed at the degree of magic the stones seemed to possess. Before long, she realized that the gems could hold a single spell that was cast into them, later releasing the magic when the fragile gem was crushed. The discovery launched the Empire into an expedition frenzy that lasted for more than 500 years.
Jeez.
The discovery of the Shardolin gems caused many of the Netherese enclaves to intensify their efforts in mining the surrounding hills and mountains. Many of the archwizards believed even greater prizes awaited discovery, and they invested huge sums of money in an effort to be the first to find them. Next in line of importance behind Shardolins was spell jamming, or flying ships into realm space. The Skyward Realms were believed to be the next great frontier for raw materials, such as mined ores, spellcraft, and discovered magical items. And the enclave of Yeoman's Loft became the main spell-jamming port in the nation of Netheril.
This is the throwing spaghetti phase of the Forgotten Realms.
Yes. The Yeoman's Loft explorers, however, came to be responsible for horrifying racial experiments, basically vivisecting anything they ran across.
What? Okay.
This gave the Netherese, the only humans to have ventured into realm space, a very bad name and a horrid reputation akin to the fear generated when an Illithid spelljamming ship was seen.
Damn.
Yeah, so people would see a Netheril spelljamming ship and they'd fucking run.
Yeah.
This dread did nothing but separate the Netherese from the spelljamming community already in space and made trade nearly impossible. So, in fact, Netherese ships were attacked on sight.
Okay. Makes sense.
Oberon, an arcanist born during this time in Netheril's history, tried his best to mend his nation's reputation in space, but it was to no avail. 100 years after the first ship ventured above Toril's surface, Netheril recalled the last one. The tremendous expense of armoring and defending their ships far exceeded any profits to be made in realm space, since the Netherese were unsuccessful in creating their own helms and other spelljamming items. Being forced to rely on the arcane for such materials, they decided to drop out of realm space.
Dang, so they just went and fucked up realm space and came back.
Yeah, basically.
They're like, this is hard. And they went home.
Yeah, it was basically like, by this time, the Empire was just so imperial. Like, they didn't see what they were doing was so wrong because it's so ingrained in their culture that like they had just this complete inability to actually have like lines of communication or parlays between different cultures. They just started grabbing things and cutting them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they like lost all their humanity.
Anything that wasn't empire was for empire use. You know what I mean? Like, what a way to look at the world. All right, moving on.
The Shadowed Age.
The Shadowed Age. The Shadowed Age of Netheril brought the first inklings of what was to befall the Netherese. It was a time when the shadows of doom crept around the Netherese landscape. It is considered the last age of Netheril, though we have 2 more eras still to talk about afterwards. Okay. And it began with the birth of the mage Karsus in negative 696 DR. Many great arcanists were born in Netheril, and many of them outlived their own civilization by centuries, typically by lichdom. While many of the most powerful Netherese were archwizards, it wasn't necessarily a requirement. Of all those who did survive beyond the fall of Netheril, however, none were as great as Karsus. Karsus's first spellcasting came at the tender age of 2, when he instinctively cast a cantrip. Young Karsus found himself learning spells almost inherently, as though he always knew them. The local priesthood of Mistral, so remember, we have Mistral 1.0 and Mistral 2.0, but before them, there was Mistral.
Right.
Daughter of Shar and Sehanine. When Sehanine blasted Shar in the chest with her fist.
Not her moonbow?
Sure, her moonbow.
Which is just her fist.
She launched her essence at her sister, and it made her sister half melt. And
gross.
Mistral was born. Sorry. The local priesthood of Mistral took an immediate interest in the young man and trained him. They tried to indoctrinate him into their church hierarchy, but he was not interested. He didn't believe that putting his faith in the polytheistic structure would do him any good. He believed himself worthy of a god's stature. This, of course, made him the perfect candidate for archwizardry, since all of the archwizards believed in only themselves.
Okay.
Karsus, at the age of 22, became the youngest archwizard ever. To gain this title, one had to create a mythallar, carve an enclave from a mountain, flip that mountain upside down,
Flip that bad boy.
Erect a city upon it, and then claim it as their own.
Okay.
For several months of his, God, I bet you before it was this flat desert land that it became, it was probably just a whole mountain range.
Yeah.
And that mountain range is just gone now.
Well, sort of.
Okay. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
For several months after this feat, Karsus was unable to procure businesses and residences, primarily due to his usefulness. He decided that if magical might alone couldn't attract citizens to his enclave, perhaps an image of success would. So Karsus hired some of the best architects in the land to create buildings that defied the very laws of gravity and physics. These structures eventually became known as some of the greatest arcanists, colleges, and universities in all of Netheril. The uniqueness of the structures and the hope of having such a building for themselves lured people to Karsus's enclave, and the city became successful.
Nice. Good work.
Before we get to Karsus's folly and the fall of the empire, let's talk about some key disasters that contributed to Netheril's destruction before Karsus accidentally blew the whole thing up.
Okay.
So first, a student in Karsus's Academy for Magical Study named Shadow published a highly criticized work on the planes. His work earned him the enmity of the establishment, and he was sent into exile. All study of demiplanes and quasiplanes were banned in several cities after this paper came out.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what was in this paper, by the way. I have no idea what was so fucking controversial.
He probably started writing an Infernal like 3/4 of the way through it.
Maybe something. So in Karsus, though, Shadow was asked to stay and continue his studies. Karsus felt Shadow was onto something important. Shadow invited other underground researchers to help him in his investigation, and Karsus financed the whole operation. 11 years later, with permission from Karsus himself, Shadow published another work, this time on the demiplane of Shadow, entitled Shadows, the Palpable Cohesion of Formless Corporeal Reality.
This is my paper on ghosts.
Other archwizards throughout the nation suddenly realized the importance of this discovery and saw the demiplane of Shadow as a perfect place for exploitation.
Oh, of course.
Of course. A limitless supply of shadow servants and the source of shadow magic.
Mm-hmm.
They immediately lifted the ban on the demiplane research, openly encouraging all others to discover other demiplanes as well. Unfortunately, they also discovered the demiplane of imprisonment, ultimately losing a handful of arcanists to its misty confines, though this loss was kept under strict secrecy.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Is that you just go to jail? You just go to plain jail?
Yeah. So I don't know when it says the demiplane of imprisonment. I don't know if they're talking about some demiplane I've never heard of, or if they're talking about like the lower plane Carceri, which is like the imprisonment abyss. It's all very. So you got to remember that this was written in 2nd edition, and like the cosmos has been restructured across all the editions, and so like we don't call the Shadowfell a demiplane of shadow anymore. It's called the Shadowfell.
Right.
But also, like, the way the Shadowfell is structured and the way that the Feywild is structured is totally different from the way it used to be. So this is stuff that kind of predates my knowledge, and I'm not entirely clear on exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah, they got jailed up.
Yeah, they got jailed up.
They're like, don't tell anybody that these guys found the prison of planes.
They found Prison Planet. Disaster number 2, the phaerimm. Unbeknownst to the Netherese, their enormous usage of magic was destroying the underground home of malevolent and highly intelligent aberrations known as the phaerimm. The phaerimm depended on the inherent magic of nature to survive, and the Netherese were sucking up such massive amounts of weave, barren wastelands were created where there was once lush fields and areas of wild magic.
Shit.
So the phaerimm, in retaliation, began casting powerful magic drain spells across the land in year -496 DR. The permanent magic drain spells began draining life energies as well, slowly killing everything within their sphere of effect. They began casting this powerful spell everywhere across Netheril's lands. So, fortunately for the Netherese, the effects of the magic drain spell were visible. Near the largest flying cities, the land slowly began turning into a sandy desert. At first, the archwizards were unconcerned. They simply flew the city to a different place. As the land's plague continued to follow the cities, however, the archwizards knew something was wrong.
Cool.
But in moving the cities around, they helped establish the borders of the desert that would one day be known as the Anarak Desert, which I believe is the desert you probably took your boys to in Flashbang.
It is. I pronounced it Anarak, but whatever.
Anarak, yeah. What did I say?
Anarak?
Anarak.
Whatever, fuck it. It's
Whatever.
Anarak to me.
For sure. Sounds good. As this plague progressed,
Sorry, it's because when you walk through it, you see a rock and then another rock. I don't know.
You see a rock.
My bad.
And another rock. And another rock.
Anarak.
And a rock. And a rock. As this plague progressed, the archwizards slowly discerned an intelligence working against them, the phaerimm. From time to time, powerful archwizards would create new, more powerful spells, only to be suddenly attacked by a wave of magic hurling phaerimm intent on the destruction. So they look like sunflower octopus monsters with...
Oh, that's right. I remember these guys. Yeah, these are still around.
Yes, they are. You want to describe it for the audience?
Yeah, sure. It's like a it's like Link's hat, but bad.
Okay, well, you're not wrong.
What if Link's hat is attached to him by like a sphincter full of teeth?
Yeah, that also has 4 arms.
Also has 4 arms and flies.
And flies.
I think they burrow.
They do burrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do burrow. They live deep underground.
Oh, here's a cool image from 5e Tools. It's like somebody walking around in the desert.
Oh yeah, that's horrifying.
And then this thing is gonna creep on them. Yeah, because that desert's got sandstorms and like lots of weird terrain because of what Will's gonna get to in the notes later. Yeah, these things suck.
Yep,
they suck the life out of you.
They do. News of the Phaerimm's open attack against the Netherese was slow to spread. However, for the Phaerimm seldom left survivors, and their magic blocked most divination attempts to discover the truth behind this or that archwizard's disappearance. So basically, like, sections of the land are dying, cities are disappearing, wizards are disappearing, and for the most part, they're not entirely sure what's happening, but there are rumors of these fucking crazy monsters. But like the rumors are like hard to believe.
Yeah, I can't imagine there are too many survivors encountering them. They're nasty. They're nasty creatures, like to actually fight.
Yeah, I think they're pretty high CR. So meanwhile, Karsus discovered that the Phaerimm's magic drain was beginning to weaken the life-enduring magic he had constructed around himself, and he determined that he needed to find the source of the draining or choose a different way to stay alive. He reverted to lichdom and began experimenting with what's called heavy magic.
There you go. Time to become a lich.
This graft, so heavy magic is this graft of physics, chemistry, and magic but it's highly volatile. But Karsus believed it could destroy the denizens of the underworld, who he correctly believed were responsible for the ever-growing decline in available magic. So the chaotic effects of the phaerimm's magic caused many of the arcanists of High Netheril to flee the Empire for safer lands. Those that remained behind tried to discover a weakness they could exploit in the phaerimm, and they received some mysterious assistance from a race of creatures known as the Sharn, mysterious tripartite aberrations that embodied magical chaos. The phaerimm were suddenly faced with a two-front war.
So, like, all these high-level wizards are becoming liches. Is the madness thing still like a factor here?
Well, it would be, but not enough time is going to go by between this and the fall of the Empire. Again, them turning to lichdom is like now. This is happening now at the end of the Empire, and the only reason it's happening is because the magic they were using to extend their lives is being sucked away by the phaerimm.
Oh, I see. They weren't liches the whole time.
They weren't liches.
They're
the whole
starting
time.
to now out of like a necessity.
Exactly
Okay.
right. Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly
no wonder
right.
it starts to all just fucking crumble. Okay.
Yeah.
The fall and aftermath.
The fall and aftermath. In negative 339 DR, the archwizard Ialam disappeared. Hey, he was still around. Now he's gone.
Dang. Get fucked, Ialam. You
It
bastard.
just took 3,000 years.
Yeah.
Several of his friends, including Karsus, believed he left Netheril because he depended heavily on magic to maintain his life. His final fate remained unknown.
Okay.
Panic surged through Netheril as the citizens learned of Ialam's disappearance, and the archwizards that remained feared that there would be a revolt. Karsus, feeling the responsibility for Netheril's future on his shoulders, felt it was his duty to weld the nation back together. He finished a spell that he'd been working on for years and then cast it upon himself.
Uh-oh. Okay.
This spell, called Karsus' Avatar, was the only 12th level spell ever created. It was designed to temporarily steal the powers of a deity. When he cast the spell, he chose Mistral, the goddess of magic, in the process changing forever the way magic functions. So his body swelled with a sudden influx of godly power, his mind filled with unimaginable knowledge. Karsus instantly realized the horrible mistake he had made. He stole the power from the one god he shouldn't have. Mistral's position called for one of the aspects of her psyche to constantly rework the weave of magic, the weave that Netheril and his glut of magic and the phaerimm, with their magic drain spells, constantly threatened to unravel. When Mistral lost her ability to keep the weave of essential magic in its purest, unschooled, and unfiltered form intact, the inundation of magic surged and fluctuated, and the effects of all things magical doubled for a short time.
Ooh.
Mistral sacrificed herself to save the weave before the damage became irreparable. This broke Karsus' link to her magic because she's dead now, and obstructed the weave, causing all magic to briefly cease functioning.
Okay.
Because the goddess of magic is dead. There is no magic. Magic doesn't exist now.
I mean, the weave is there.
Kinda, but she is also the weave.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
It's a little bit. So it's a little confusing, but
I'm gonna sacrifice myself to save myself, but I'm not gonna work because I'm not myself because I'm dead. I'm dead.
You got it. That's exactly right. Where was I? So
Without the infusion of magic.
without the infusion of magic, the floating cities of Netheril all fell, and Karsus was instantly slain. His bloated body petrified and toppled from the high plateau above his floating city and plummeted to the earth.
He does this big spell and just explodes.
Basically.
Fuck yeah.
As his body fell, his stony eyes, still shimmering with the last glint of godly omniscience, caught a glimpse of the cities of Netheril smashing to the ground, killing all their inhabitants. His heart broke. Greed for the power of the deities themselves caused the destruction of his home, his family, his friends, and his people.
Yeah. Stupid.
When Mistral reincarnated herself, this time as Mistra, she used the form of a beautiful peasant girl learning the basics of cantrip magic, but with the capacities for archwizardry. Her first priority was to recreate the weave of magic. This time, she made magic following a few more rules, and no spell above 10th level would function. By the time she was completed, she was able to save only 3 of Netheril's floating cities. The rest were utterly destroyed. These 3, Anaria, Azram, and Holondath, were high enough above the ground to survive. The cities safely landed, and the survivors stumbled away from the cities in shock. Priests and priestesses of the new goddess of magic were told the story of Karsus in dreams and visions when they prayed for spells.
Dang.
So she made sure this motherfucker was never forgotten.
Absolutely.
It was Mystra's attempt to make sure that nothing like this ever happened again. Yet Karsus was accredited as being the only human to have ever achieved godhood through spellcasting, even if it was only for a fleeting moment.
Even if it did make him explode.
It did make him explode. Within a few short months, the inhabitants of the surviving 3 cities left, fearful of the phaerimm, the gods, and the orcs. Oh god, they're back.
No, they left some.
About 1/3 migrated northward, with the rest traveling south to create the shadows or survivor states.
Okay.
In what was known as the end of the end, all that remained of Netheril was destroyed over 300 years. It began in the year -33 DR when Azrim, one of the 3 surviving cities of Netheril, was hit by the worst plague in the history of Toril,
Dang.
decimating the whole population in 1 month. Even those who escaped the scourged area died. The last 2 city-states did not last much longer, and the year 111 DR, Anaria fell. It succumbed to the weight of an orc attack. And in 329 DR, Hilandath fell. Its last dying breath went unheard as the desert of Anaruk consumed its fields, starving its people and sending them scurrying into the heart of phaerimm. The same year, the desert finally stopped its spreading as the Sharn defeated and imprisoned the phaerimm deep underneath the earth, finally ending their war. So you would think that's it. That's how the empire ended. We have gone from its inception with an alliance of 7 fishing villages and crossed 3,500 years to the death of its final 3 cities. But that's not it. Do you remember that student of Karsus who wrote those papers on demiplanes and the cosmos, Shadow?
Yeah.
Well, Shadow never stopped being super into demiplanes, namely the plane of Shadow. And this study of the plane of Shadow ended up extending the story of Netheril another 1,300 years as we enter the era of Empire of Shadows.
I made a mirror city in the
Empire, the Empire of Shadows.
All right, so let's rewind the clock a bit. Days before Karsus' folly, Arcanist Telamont Tenthal, otherwise known as Shadow, was experimenting with magic relating to the Shadow Weave and managed to shift his entire enclave of Thultanthar to the plane of Shadow, unable to return for several weeks. When the Tenthal saw the catastrophe that occurred in their absence, he assumed the destruction was caused by the phaerimm, and the subterranean race had dealt the final blow to the Empire. Okay. So basically, he goes to the Shadow Realm. They're stuck there for a few weeks. Comes back. Everything's ruined.
It's like, fuck.
And he doesn't know about Karsus' folly, and he thinks the phaerimm did it.
Oh.
Yeah. So he thinks like, oh shit, we lost the war. So he decides to return back to the Shadow Plane in order to maintain what could be their last of their magically gifted people.
He comes out and then just like Homer Simpson disappearing into the bush is back in.
That's exactly. Yeah, absolutely. He vowed one day to return to Toril and reestablish the Empire of Magic. The establishing of Tanthaltar's power in the Plane of Shadow due to unforeseen circumstances lasted much longer than Tanthal anticipated. For over 1,700 years, the inhabitants battled the Malagrim and other shadowy horrors of the realm, while each generation became gradually more attuned to the plane itself, becoming what were later known as the Shadowvar.
Okay.
So basically, all these humans become like kind of shade shadow people.
Gotcha.
But they're still they're like half human, half shadow.
Is it Shadowkai? Not that?
They're not Shadowkai, though.
Okay.
God, I don't want to get into Shadowkai and Forgotten Realms. I swear to God. Finally, in 1372 DR, after the assistance from his son, Shade Prince Rivelin, Lord Telamont returned Thultanthar enclave to the prime material plane, bringing about the reestablishment of the Netheril Empire. The enclave came to primarily soar above the northwestern side of the Shadow Sea in the Anarok Desert.
Okay.
Years of influence by Shar, goddess of darkness, and the Shadowfell had greatly influenced the Netherese nobility, gradually corrupting them into shades known as the Shadowvar. They reestablished the Netherese Empire in northern Faerun in dedication to their venerated deity of Shar, and reclaimed the power and lifestyle they knew from millennia ago. The Sharan Empire of Netheril would stretch from the borders of the high ice in the north across Anarok to the far sea swamp. Like the Ancient Empire, returned Netheril was separated into the Empire's floating enclaves, which were held aloft by the magic of the Shadow Weave and the terrestrial cities of Toril. Upon the return of Thultanthar, the Shadow Enclave, a growing empire was ruled by the Shadow Lord, Most High Telamont Tanthal, Shadow. He was served over the next 100 years until the end of the 15th century by 12 of his sons, the Princes of Shade. These millennia-old wizards of ancient Netheril had been greatly tainted by the Shadowfell and carried out the machinations of the Empire as agents of Shar.
Yeah, you probably should have a lot of kids if you live this long, huh?
I guess so. Yeah. In 1374 DR, Rivlin and his brother Brennus orchestrated a plot that brought Sembia, a young country of considerable wealth and prosperity, governed by its merchants, under the control of the Empire as a vassal state. A fallen enclave of ancient Netheril, Sikors was also reascended that year, after which it was fully rebuilt and refurnished. Over the next century, the Shadow Empire of Netheril strengthened their hold over Faerun, northern Faerun. They reenacted a bloodless conquest of Featherdale in 1418 DR, and by extension of their efforts of Sembia, took over Tasseldale in 1420 DR, and the lands of Scardale. All the Dales are just dropping. Expansion continued, but perhaps too quickly, as conquered tribes of Anarok revolted against their Netherese oppressors, and regions of central and northern Faerun became outright battlefields. As the elves of Mythallar came to the aid of the nations of the Heartlands, the armies of Sembia were staved off. Netheril now focused on Mythallar, that's a whole episode. I'm not telling you anything.
Yeah,
it's just a name to you right
this
now.
last 3-4 paragraphs have been a whirlwind for me. I'm just like, huh?
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Did you want another hour of episode?
No.
No, please, God, no.
This is a lot. There's a lot going on here.
Netheril was focused on Mythallar and flew the Shade Enclave over their borders. All you got to know about Mythallar is, much like Netheril, it was like super ancient, super elf town, right? And it also fell long ago, and it came back. I don't know how it came back. And we're not getting into how it came back.
Right.
But it, like Netheril, has come back. And now they're at each other's throats.
We'll do the diggy. We're not going to get into that right
now. So Telamon attempt to seize the power of Return Mythranor's Mythal, which is not the same as the Mythallar. It's like a big super magical barrier. So that Shar could displace Mystra as the new goddess of magic of Faerun. I don't know how that would work, but apparently it would work. The Shadow Arcanist and his fellow Shadowvar agents were stopped by their fellow Netherese Arcanist, the Lich Larlock, who wanted to absorb the Mythal for himself. During the conflict, the Shadow Lord Telamont was killed by the Sage of Shadowdale, Elmar, the super wizard of
The
realms.
Elminster.
The Elminster. Oh, cool.
Mr. Elminster.
Mr. Elminster. He shows up in BG3. It's actually pretty cool.
Oh.
The Shadow Enclave of Thultanthar fell upon Mythranor, and both cities were destroyed in a disaster.
Damn.
That harkened back to Netheril's original collapse. Just like that, both ancient powers are gone.
That's like the spoilers for Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. That's like the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, where they summon, the bad guy summons the city that they're, Neo-Domino City, which is new. The original Yu-Gi-Oh's got Domino City, right? Where they finally make rules for the card game. And then they summon Neo-Domino City above Neo-Domino City, and it's like inverse, to crash it into each other so that the reactor that powers the motorcycles or something like that will like negate itself and like warp both cities into nothingness. Or something like that.
Oh yeah, sounds
like make
riveting.
They'll make a black hole. They're gonna make a black hole by crashing two cities into
create
each
a
other.
singularity. Gotcha.
Yeah. So the card game gets they're playing card games on motorcycles, and the motorcycle gets wings, and the bad guy can fly. It's convenient, and they're flying through these two cities, crashing into each other, playing a card game. It's pretty cool.
Sounds intense.
It sounds like this.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I haven't read that book, so maybe that's how it happened.
In that show, they like, I'm gonna break my limits, and then they like create a Yu-Gi-Oh card mid-game.
What?
Yeah, they're like, I'm gonna do this random shit, and
I'm just gonna make up a new rule. Basically,
he literally pulls a card out of his deck that's blank and holds it up, and like the fucking thing he did like creates the thing on the card. He just like knows how to use it. It's got like a fucking whole page of text. It's on this little card. Let's get ready for a long rest.
Long rest time.
Hey everybody, welcome to the long rest. This is the part of the show where me and Will were just discussing, was this episode helpful for anybody running their game? I would like to know, because we can come up with some ideas, but like it would have been helpful for my FBATS campaign section where we went here, but only so much of it. Like there was just a lot of information. So I'm curious to know what you guys thought of this episode and like how much of it is useful, or like is it just a fun story? Because it is. There are fun stories to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is our Patreon voted episode. So thank you guys so much once again. You can support us at patreon.com/thedungeoncast, and you can get involved in voting for episodes, nominating them, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun to watch people kind of debate it in the comments, and like you road warriors that are just like throwing the same topic that doesn't get voted on in every time. It's like, keep at it. You'll make it one day.
It'll happen one day.
Yeah. It is slim. There's 12 topics. There, it's up to your fellow patrons.
Yeah. The next topic that has almost definitely won is the ethereal plane.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That'd be cool to know the lore on that, since it gets used in a lot of spells and stuff. Yeah, our patrons must like Forgotten Realms and be running their games in it, huh?
It's just the most popular setting. I mean, it was always the most popular setting, but when 5e made it the default setting, it just became, I bet you it's a huge subsection of the entire community's only foray into D&D is Forgotten Realms.
I mean,
so like they truly are synonymous.
It is convenient to run games there. Just because there's so much established stuff, you can like kind of pick and choose. So I've run two games in Forgotten Realms now, so I'm kind of there. But yeah, let's get into the patrons and shout out people that we owe shout outs to that have come in over the last 3 weeks it's been since we recorded. So,
yeah.
We got Kirkus Hera.
Thank you, Kirkus.
Thank you, Kirkus. Woo. We got Ogus Siddiq.
Thank you, Ogus. Ogus?
It's O-G-U-Z.
Ogus.
Ogus.
Thank you, Ogus.
Siddiq. Thank you.
Annual subscriber.
There we go. We got Connor.
Thank you, Connor.
We got J.Q. Williams.
Thank you, J.Q. Williams.
Woo. We got Zach Zerowich.
Thank you, Zach.
Zach has upgraded from a thank you to a woo.
Sorry, I'm sick.
We got a Demogorgon cult leader.
Thank you, Demogorgon cult leader.
Shout out to Demogorgon.
Shout out to Demogorgon.
What do we say for you of a denomination such as this? I don't know. Maybe we'll just do a bunch of air horns.
Are they like a YouTube channel member? Is that what it is?
No, they are a monthly Patreon subscriber of a substantial amount. And then the guy hitting the air horns calls the bartender over, and they like start pouring shots into people's mouths like over the counter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's this one.
Awesome.
We got Jeffrey Rondow.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
I think it's Rondo, whatever. We got Zach Ochoa.
Thank you, Zach.
Woo. We got Kelly Lanier.
Thank you, Kelly.
Holy smokes, Kelly. You got a bunch of air horns too. And then just imagine like somebody pouring a bucket of dice onto a dance floor and like somebody breakdancing and the dice flying everywhere.
All those D4s.
Oh God. They don't care. They keep dancing. Meteor 13.
Thank you, Meteor 13. Annual subscriber.
We got Kevin DeVault.
Thank you, Kevin.
They doubled their annual subscription. Thank you.
Oh wow,
Kevin
thank
DeVault.
you. Thank you. Annual subscriber. Wow.
Christian Leva Lopez.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you. That's it. That's what we got.
All right. Thanks,
you guys. Everyone. We really appreciate you guys. And thank you for everyone who is donating, continues to donate. We have a lot of people that have just been on our Patreon for a long, long time. And we really appreciate you guys. You keep the ship floating. And we don't send the ship into Spelljammer space to fuck with people.
To vivisect the other species we find.
Let's see. Check us out. Let's move on to the normal long rest stuff, shall we? We did Patreon. We'll do like YouTube or something like that next episode, and in the next 2 episodes, we'll do maybe one episode for YouTube comments, 1 episode for
iTunes reviews.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that works for me.
Yeah, check us out. Leave an iTunes review. We read them on the show. at least most of them, or a good chunk of them. Leave a YouTube comment, a subscribe, and a like. That stuff really helps the algorithm promote the show, which is great. Like, you know, the algorithm just means it's like a word of mouth by machines, word of machine. We've got social media like Instagram. We've got, are you going to go ahead?
We're on Threads. We're on Mastodon. We are on X, formerly known as Twitter. And on Discord. All the links are in the description.
We have a P.O. box, and we have an email address that are also in the notes below that you can hit us up at. Let's see. You can follow me on Instagram at SoundGood Inc. I don't post a whole lot, but you can see my turtle. Mostly on the weekends when it's sunny and I can get a good photo. They're not like not trapped in a bush. They like to take lazy naps in thick bushes. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening to the show.
We'll call it a game.
We're going to call it a game. Bye.
The Dungeoncast.